So in this week's Friday chat, we want to talk a little bit about the spiritual closet.
Yes. We know about being in the spiritual closet and not daring really to talk about spirituality or that we are spiritual, what our interest is.
There's quite a lot of prejudice, or we might fear that there's quite a lot of prejudice, but I think often that we mistake prejudice for insecurity and not knowing or not daring to ask and talk about things that we're not very secure about.
In my experience, there are much more people that are interested in spirituality than we think.
Yeah.
And when we start talking about our interest, then people start asking questions, or they're even exploring the same things as we are. And I found this happening over and over again. And when I've spoken to people who have been inside the spiritual closet for a long time and haven't really dared to do anything about it or talk to anyone about it, people feel alone.
Yeah.
And when they open up and start talking about it, they find so many people that are interested in the same things. And we start forming groups and we start getting together to talk about our interest. This is such a wide spectrum. There are so many things that we can learn about, that we can read about, that we can work with, that we can benefit from talking to each other.
And I think we are often quite hesitant to discuss our spirituality or what we are experiencing and thinking when we are trying to describe it or explain it to the people around us, to our family and friends that are not maybe walking the same path as we are, at least not now. And then we feel that the people don't want to understand, that they think we are strange and we are full of insecurities, and we close off instead of opening up. And that is, I think, a mutual experience for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But at least in my case, I was always hesitant to discuss this with my family, even though my family has always been open-minded to spirituality. But especially after we started this school and I started to work full force within this, I don't want to say industry, but I started to work within the school. I felt quite hurt because they didn't ask me about what I was doing. They were always very hesitant to ask how the school was going, and I felt that they weren't interested in what I was doing, and it felt me, and it felt, it didn't feel good because I felt that they didn't care. But when I sat down and I started to just ask them about it, I said, why don't you ask? Why are you ashamed of me? Or because the shame was the feeling that was like on top of my list, that it must be the shame. And then they said, well, no, not at all. We are very proud of you, but because we don't fully understand what you're doing, we are afraid that we will ask the wrong questions that will make us look silly. So I had to change, shift it around, and okay, it's not about me. It's about their insecurity. It's not about me at all.
Yeah. And I think that's the case because so many of us are not willing to ask questions if we are insecure.
I have to plug us in.
Yeah, I continue. And I feel this insecurity, and sometimes people don't want to know, and then that's okay if they don't want to know. But just to open up and give people a chance to ask the questions and to say what we are doing and how it has benefited us, because it's important also that we can share who we are and how we are evolving and changing with the work we do, because I believe that spiritual work will always impact our life in a positive way, hopefully.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can go through what many people want to call the dark night of the soul. I mean, things come up, but in my experience, everything that we do helps us process and go through the things that happen in life much more quickly than they did before.
And I think a lot of us experience being split. So we have our spiritual side that we only talk about with our spiritual friends, and then we have all the other parts we are playing in our life that we don't mix spirituality with. And that can cause a lot of conflict. And it definitely did in my case. I'm a musician, for example, and I was very hesitant to mix my spirituality and my music um, out in the open. Of course, I'm creating music, it's a spiritual process for me, but I was very hesitant to, for example, publish posts from the school on my musician's profile on social media. And I always felt this kind of conflict inside me that I wasn't showing the real me. I wasn't showing the whole of who I am. And I still struggle a little bit with that. I have decided that there will be no separation, but I'm still defining within myself what does that look like, and what kind of musician am I then? And I'm in this process of like redefining myself. But with social media, I also noticed, for example, if I posted something from the school on my personal profile, I didn't get many likes or comments or anything. It was like nobody really cared about that.
Very little interaction.
Yeah, very little interaction with. If I put something about my music or just about my daily life, always a lot of comments, a lot of likes, and but everything connected to spirituality or the school, people were obviously very hesitant to show that they would like it or write a comment about it. But I don't know how many people have approached me just if I'm at an event or visiting someone or I meet someone on the street that is friends with me on Facebook, and they always say, "It's so interesting what you're doing. It's so inspiring. I always read your posts. I'm so interested in your school. You're doing such great work." And this person has never liked or commented on anything I've done. So this tells me there's a lot of people in the spiritual closet still,
Yeah,
and it's our responsibility to help them out.
exactly. And this is, as you said, it's a key thing to be ourselves,
Yeah.
first of all. And there is a lot of interest. And I can say the same, meeting people on the street who follow what we're doing without us knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
And this is something that we must think about. How can we combine the different parts of ourselves, the different roles we have? I mean, I worked in the corporate world for a long time, and there I stopped being a separate person when I came to spirituality and when it came to being a serious business person, because I just started talking about what I was doing. And mm, it happened, I think, once that a person said, "I don't want to know anything about ghosts." Right? Okay, that's fine. Then you don't want to know about that. But I was talking about it openly, and people are curious. It's not that, it took over every discussion, but also, clients in other countries, and they were interested in who we are as a person, and who I am as a person is a spiritual being. And that had to come out at some point in time. And that was me being me. And people like that. People like when we are authentic and when we are able to express who we are as a person.
But I mean, some of us there might be some complications in our family surroundings, or there might be some conflict of interest, we could say. I've experienced, for example, that my husband comes from a very Christian family, and I have been a challenging partner for them. It's not that they don't show me love, or they are very loving and they are very embracing, but my worldview often challenges their worldview, and uh,
Vice versa.
vice versa. So that has we have had to have, of course, conversations, and sometimes we just have to agree upon not agreeing at all, because spirituality is not something that we can ruggraden? Yeah, trying to find the English word. Yeah, it's not something that we can debate about, because it's a feeling, it's an inner truth, and you cannot convince anybody of your inner truth is right, because they have their own inner truth. So we just have to meet somewhere in the middle and say, okay, this is where we are. Let's go forward. And this has been, I think, it's been very challenging, but also very good, both for both of us, to just to broaden our horizons. And me and my husband, we've had to have a lot of conversations about the world and about how we see the world, and find common ground. And we found it because we weren't afraid to discuss it, um, which shows me that, and through our conversations, I also experienced that we are often talking about the same thing, but we use different words, so we don't understand each other. For example, within the church, they have we sat down one evening, me and my husband, and he was like, "Okay, what is this healing? What are you talking about?" And I was okay. I explained what healing was for me, and he said, "Okay, okay." And then he said, "Okay, when I was working within the church, sometimes we went to people that were sick, and we put our hands on the people, and gave them the light of God." And I was like, "Okay, that's healing." So we found that, okay, we're talking about the same thing. So we're actually doing the same thing. And then he said, "Oh, and sometimes when I was out in the street and I saw a person, I felt an inner need to walk to that person, and I got a prophecy about their life." So I said, "Okay, so you were channeling?" And he said, "No, no, it was a prophecy." I said, "Well, that's kind of the same thing." And then we discussed that, and okay, we're talking about the same thing. So I think often we have prejudice against each other and against ourselves a lot of the time.
Exactly.
And that's why we stay in this closet and we keep the door closed.
But there is so much more that unites us than is separating us. So, but we need to have this discussion to figure out all these things that unite us, and that's why it's important to be able to be ourselves and to get out of the spiritual closet, because for me, spirituality isn't something that I do twice a week. It's a part of my life. And speaking to light beings, speaking to Mother Earth, or connecting to Mother Earth, it's all a part of my daily process. And it's a part of who I am. So this is about being me. And I don't have to tell everyone about it. But being spiritual and going my own way, for example, in healing, or when it comes to becoming ill or dealing with issues that come up in life, that's something that I do in my own way, because it's based on my intuition, it's based on my experience, and how I see the world. And I need to do things my way. And if people don't agree with that, then that's their issue. We need to agree, sometimes, as you said, to disagree.
And we have to find our tribe. We have to be able to find people online or in person, people that nurture us, and people that we can open up to, and discuss our experiences when we are walking the spiritual path. It is so important to have a tribe that you can really reflect with, and to deepen your understanding of what's going on in your life.
It's often like looking in the mirror when we're talking about our experiences, and we can get the feedback. And it's about trusting also people to work with us, or being, beside us when we are going through the things that come up, when we start looking within and at ourselves.
Yeah.
And just one more thing, it's our experience that when we create the space, because often we are afraid of letting go of the people that have been around us for a long time, and then we have this inner feeling that we shouldn't be traveling any further on this journey. We should go our separate ways, but we're afraid to let them go. So we continue through the same routine over and over again with the people because we are afraid to let them go. But then we can create space for new people to enter our lives, and that's important as well to find our tribe.
Yeah, the basic thing is there that nothing is constant in life. Life is just a series of change, and we change places, the places where we live. We change jobs. The people around us, they change, and we have to be ready to embrace the change and to follow our hearts in the right direction for us. And if that means coming out as a spiritual being and just to make absolutely sure that we are understanding each other correctly, that you understand us, that spirituality has nothing to do with religion. Religion is not a part of that for us, it's just our connection with the world and ourselves. Um, when we are ready to step out, let's do it. Just one small step at a time. Find your tribe, find a person that you can speak with. Find somebody that you feel that you have a heart connection with, and practice. And as more of us come out of the closet, more people will follow. There are so many people that are thinking the same things that you are thinking, experiencing the same things that you are. So the only way to support each other is just to be visible and lift ourselves up together.
And it's such a relief not to have to hide any part of
Yes.
yourself.
And well, who cares if somebody thinks we're strange? Who cares? It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. It doesn't matter.
We'll get there in the end.
Yeah, or not. It doesn't matter as long as we're happy. So, yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a great weekend. Please like and subscribe, and
See you next week.
see you next week.